Alright, so we're going to have some bright lights in front of us here. Full power. We've got an appropriate airspeed, 90 to 100 knots per pattern. There's the lovely town of Cascade. Alright, mixture is full rich as required. Flap set to 0. Elevator trim set for takeoff. Lights, strobe, taxi all on. 1200 alt green. Yep, 1200 alt green. Okay. Heading bug set to runway heading. So that we would need to adjust the bug there. Correct. To so 11. Either of these knobs will do the same thing. Switch all the way back to 110. We'll assist you with flying runway heading on departure. PFD, nearest window displayed. I know we've talked about that. You don't generally pull it up. Hey, we're good to go. Taxi us over to the hold line. All right. I don't see anybody else on either my iPad or the MFD. Been listening. I don't hear anybody else. Here we go. And hold right here. So just for future, you're a little close to the edge. The paint is over here. Yeah. So you really should have the front wheel on the paint. That's why the line's there. He's off. Did he take off? He's up in the air. Hey Jason, we're ready to depart on 11. We got time to get out before you're doing your power off 180.
Yep. Go ahead.
Copy that. Go. All right. You shadow the controls with me. Okay. Napa traffic 2 Whiskey Mike departing runway 11 Napa. Have a good grip on him when you're shadowing with me. You're not going to obstruct me.
Okay. 0 Alpha Charlie approaching Amazon. Left traffic 11, still on the 45, looking for the traffic.
All right, so we're going to have some bright lights in front of us here. Full power. Notice how I pulled just ever so slightly? Just slightly, yeah. And right away the nose is going up, so trim wheel forward, because I don't want to climb that fast. I want safe airspeed. Yep.
Tango, turning left.
So I don't want to be anywhere below 70, because this is not a short field takeoff. There's not an obstacle for us to clear. So there's really no reason to pitch the aircraft up that high. That makes sense. Hey, quick check right away. How's everything looking? Green, 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 green. Okay, we're good there. Eyes back out the window. And keeping on our bug as best we can, so we're flying, departing on runway heading. And keeping an eye out.
Sky 7155 Tango, turning left, downwind, runway 11.
That's that guy right there, turning left, downwind. Okay, your controls. Okay. And I'm going to keep us going straight until 3200. And we're going to start at 55. All right, so you can go ahead and begin your turn. Yep. Napa traffic 2 Whiskey Mike, we're going to do a crosswind departure to the north. What we can do is go direct, enter, and fly that heading now. That's the directions to the airport that we're going to, so roll out on that heading.
Napa traffic, Cantabria 0 Alpha Charlie, left base to final. Runway 11.
Also, just for your FYI, if you look over here at the MFD, we're outside of the Class C airspace for Gowan Airport, so we don't have any ceiling restrictions on us.
Napa traffic 02 Mike, left crosswind 11, Napa.
Obviously, if we'd gone a little further, then we'd have to be very cognizant of whatever the ceiling restrictions were so that we didn't get up in the shelf. That makes sense. Okay, so I am on the heading, but I'm still a little bit to the right, so I probably need to... Well, here's the quick fix for that. Direct enter. Now, because the computer has recalculated our departure position.
7155 Tango, turning left base, runway 11.
So I'm going to switch this, in a minute, we'll switch to the backcountry frequency. Now I want you to keep the magenta needle pointed up, and you can look over here for reference on the MFD. This is like the GPS in your car. Yeah. You can already see that you're a little bit to the left of the heading that we want, so look at the magenta line here. Yeah, so I got to ping. Exactly. You want to come back over this way a little bit.
All right, so we're 4,100. I know the shelf here, so we're good on Class C airspace over there. And I'm going to switch us to the backcountry frequency now. So this is going to be a beautiful scenic flight, folks, to Cascade, Idaho. Is a quick hop of 59 nautical miles, and then and we won't film the whole outbound leg because it'll probably be a little bit boring for you guys to watch. But we will film our approach and our touch and go. So thanks very much for joining us for this flight today. It's always a privilege to have you here on the Fly with Trent channel. And I look forward to seeing whatever questions and comments you have in this video. All right, so how are we doing here, Blake?
Heading is good, but the magenta line is way the hell off.
So how do you think that happened?
I was off heading.
Well, that's true. Which way were you off heading?
I was off to the right, or to the left.
To the left, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So for the purposes of practice, why don't you fix that? Why don't you get us back on the appropriate track?
So I need to go to the right to line that up, and then
and the reason is, just like the MFD is telling you, that line there is to the right, so that means you need to fly back to that line.
Yep, and then I will have to correct left to get the magenta arrow
So what
back.
you're going to see happen is, as we get close back to the track, this line is going to start to center. And ideally what you want to do is, by the time it centers, so this is enough, you don't need to go over anymore. We just flew over a very small little forest fire, and we're now about 15 miles outside of Cascade. So the first thing that we would normally do when we're approaching a new airport is we want to check the weather. And I'm not sure if Cascade has an AWOS or an ASOS, so we're going to check. And there is not an AWOS or an ASOS. So we could pull some weather from McCall. Good altitude, so don't climb fast past your...
Yep.
Right, and so now we're going to go back on both tanks because my watch just alerted us to check.
Okay.
So McCall, 119.925. So let's try that out and make that active, and let's listen to the weather in McCall, which apparently 119.925. We're either too far for McCall, which is entirely possible, and there's a mountain in the way.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll just leave that on and see if it'll come on for us as we get closer to this airport, Cascade. All right, so we have two runways to choose from. We have runway 12, there's no wind info, and we have runway 30, which is a right traffic pattern, as opposed to the usual left traffic pattern. So I think we are going to overfly the airport. Okay. We're going to look at the windsock, and we'll make our decision based upon the windsock.
Okay.
So when we do our initial overfly, we're not going to be in the pattern. So I'm going to say let's be 500 feet above the pattern, which is the normal altitude if we were going to do a midfield crossing.
Okay.
And we'll be letting people know on the radio, so 122.9, we're already on that frequency. Pattern altitude is 47, so 57, so we don't want to go below about 63.
Okay.
So I'm going to bug. We'll just call it 60. Yeah, we'll go down to 63.
Automated weather observation 1605 Zulu. Wind calm. 10. Sky condition overcast.
Okay, winds calm. Exactly kind of what I expected. So really with winds calm, we could choose either runway, and after we're leaving, we're headed back that way. So what that means for me, if we look back at runways, so back that way is runway 12, which means that we could very easily do what type of pattern entry if we want to join downwind.
Cooper, right base for Pharma 12.
It's a right pattern, though.
Not for 12, it's not. It's a normal left pattern.
Oh, so should we just be able to kind of just join straight in since we're going to be going left around it?
So if 12 is headed back this way,
Yeah.
downwind is this way,
Yep.
and the appropriate pattern entry would be a 45-degree join to the downwind for 12.
Yep.
Okay? So let's make our call here. So Cascade traffic, this is Skyhawk 2 Whiskey Mike. We are at 7,500 feet, about 7.5 miles to the southwest, and we're going to come on in for a touch and go on runway 12. We'll be doing a 45-degree join to the downwind. The first thing when you approach an airport, get weather. Okay. Second thing, start listening to the radio that is used for that airport in case there's anybody flying there to see what they're doing, especially in a non-towered airport. And then number 3 is descent planning, and then number 4 is pattern entry procedure. So we've already discussed pattern entry procedure. We know what we're going to do, and so that means we would need to fly in slightly to the right of the airport so that we can set ourselves up for that 45-degree join. So descent planning, we're going to be there in 3 minutes.
So start dropping a little bit?
We only want to drop, so now that we have an idea of what we're doing, so again, pattern altitude for this airport is going to be, we're going to call it 5,900. We're at 75, so we got about 1,500 feet. That's about 90 seconds worth of descending at 500 feet per minute.
Okay.
So you could probably start your descent now.
Okay. And with that, do I want to pull power?
Break up is 8 miles north.
So yeah, for a descent, so normally the first thing we were going to do is we'd rich, but we actually didn't leave. We never got to that, we should have. But, so I would start pulling power back to probably the bottom end of the green arc.
Okay.
Want to try and get eyes on the airport. I can actually see it. So the airport's directly in front of us. So that being the case, suddenly we're in a position where like, oh wow, we're not in a great spot to do a 45-degree join. We would have had to go way over there.
Yeah.
We're going to do a midfield crossing instead.
Okay.
Cascade traffic, there's a 2 Whiskey Mike. We're actually switching to a midfield crossing, and then we're going to do a teardrop join for the downwind for runway 12. And now pattern entry is going to be 6,400 feet, so we want to get down to 64.
Okay.
Now, seems pretty high, right?
Yeah.
So what would you do with the power now?
Warm Springs drive is
drop power more?
4.5 miles to the west inbound for landing Warm Springs.
We want to get down to 64.
I feel like we are descending very quickly. Do I need to pull up?
No, we're descending at about 1,000 feet per minute.
Okay.
Park Kilo Delta, Great and Lake Permacon.
And I need to probably apply a little bit of left rudder there.
Yeah, ideally, you do want to pass over when you're doing a midfield crossing, you want to be at the midpoint of the runway, which is directly ahead of us.
Yeah. I just noticed it was kind of uncoordinated flight there for a moment, so.
Okay. So there we are at 64. Let's go ahead and add some power back. Back to the bottom end of the green arc. That's good enough for pattern.
Okay.
We've got an appropriate airspeed, 90 to 100 knots for pattern. There's the lovely town of Cascade. Fuel on fullest tanks. Landing lights on. Okay, so now we're in the flap safe zone. We're going to add 1 notch of flaps. Okay, and start shadowing the controls because you're not in the landing phase of your training yet.
Definitely not.
Okay, so we're doing some trim adjustment. And we're looking for right around this speed. When we're looking back at the threshold of the runway, when we're about a 45-degree angle off of that runway, we're going to turn base, and we're going to add some flaps at the same time. But I'm just slightly above the flap speed for second notch. So we're going to adjust, pull some power, pull the nose up a bit to get rid of that speed. There we go. Cascade traffic, 2 Whiskey Mike, left base, runway 12, Cascade. All right, now that we've got that second notch of flaps in, I want to get the nose back down because in base, I don't really want to be below about 80 knots.
Okay.
Looking and keeping my eye on that threshold over there and pulling out some power. Because I don't want to overspeed the flaps, pull the nose back up. There we go. Okay, so we can see nobody on the runway, clear threshold. All right, let's turn final. Cascade traffic, 2 Whiskey Mike, turn final, runway 12, Cascade. So once we're on final, which we are now, we're going to start losing some speed. I've pulled the power. I'm putting some trim back because I want the nose up. Do you think we look high or do you think we look appropriate?
I feel like we're high.
We're very high, so we're going to do what we call a side slip. So opposite rudder all the way to the floor. And what the side slip allows us to do is lift altitude quickly without picking up airspeed. If we just push the nose down, what do you think is going to happen to airspeed? We're going to add our last notch of flaps in there, because that'll help us get even lower. So you can see our airspeed here, 63 knots.
Yep.
This is great. So 55, 60. I'm going to stay in this slip until my pilot instincts tell me that it's time to come out of the slip. There we are, beautifully lined up. We got a nice low speed of around just above stall. We just want to stall it onto the runway. There we go. Okay, let's get back to center line. Put our flaps all the way up and add power. Trim adjustment while we're going down the runway. And we're at rotation speed and back up in the air we go.